What is up, guys? It is the Sound Alchemist, and I'm back at it again, bringing you 40 facts on the Warhammer 40k universe. So if you guys were with us from the beginning, we started doing a bunch of lore on all of the primarchs, and then we kind of slowed it down to the point of only being two primarch lores left, Perturabo and Horus. So I also wanted to give you guys lore on the Fracture of Bealtan. Since we gave you the lore on the Fall of Cadia, Bealtan would be the next up, because we have part 3 coming, I think in a couple of weeks if I'm not mistaken, which involves Guilliman's return to the Imperium. So I asked a question on Facebook, what do you guys want? Lore on the Fracture of Bealtan or lore on Perturabo? And it was pretty much one-sided, so without further ado, here is lore on the Primarch of the Iron Warriors, Perturabo. As we all know, the Primarchs were scattered to the ends of the galaxy, all thanks to the ruinous powers of chaos. Perturabo landed on a planet by the name of Olympia, which also happens to be my aunt's name. He was discovering climbing the mountains below to the city-state of Lakos. The guards, having realized this, that he was no normal child, brought him before Demekos, the tyrant of Lakos. Demekos was intrigued by the child, and he brought him into his house and treated him as family. Supposedly, Perturabo never trusted the Olympians, and he refused to return any affection given by Demekos. Demekos spent plenty of time with his new son, but never got anything in return. Many saw Perturabo as a cold and brooding child, but when considered that he had been thrown out into a world with no idea of its origins or purpose, this is perhaps a little harsh. Nonetheless, Perturabo took the name not of venerated Olympian heroes, as was expected of nobility, but rather an ancient title for those with prodigious ability. Perturabo waged wars against rivals for his adopted father, and due to the many warring city-states of Olympia, gathered enormous experience in siege warfare. Overseeing the construction of many siege engines once thought technologically impossible, Perturabo soon scored victory after victory after victory, and he became known as a merciless, bloody-handed warlord. Throughout his life, Perturabo was haunted by visions and feelings of a great maelstrom, though he told none of it, as he feared it would be seen as a sign of weakness. When the Emperor finally arrived, Perturabo immediately submitted himself to the Emperor's mercy and ousted the tyrant of Locus. Demekos is said to have spent his remaining few years gathering forces to attempt to retake his power. He failed, but created a current of unrest which would be used later. Perturabo spent many times with his brother Magnus on Terra in his early days, in the fledgling Imperium, attempting to discover the many secrets of mankind's past, and he became particularly interested in the works of famous inventors. Of all the Primarchs, Perturabo had the most raw scientific and technological knowledge. Upon taking command of his legion, Perturabo reviewed the war record of his new forces. After heavily analyzing their record, effectiveness, doctrine, and practices, Perturabo found them wanting. His punishment was decimation. By lottery, 1 in every 10 legionnaires was chosen to be beaten by death by his comrades. Such would be Perturabo's reign, brutal and unforgiving. Damn, that's rough. During the Great Crusade, Perturabo led his Iron Warriors on a lightning crusade against the planet of Justice Rock and its heretical black judges. The Iron Warriors went on to create citadels throughout the regions they fought in. Small numbers of Iron Warriors were left behind at these outposts, but Perturabo resented being forced to split his army. As time went on, they were stereotyped as being the best army for sieges and garrisons, but eventually the Iron Warriors were so worn out that they simply began to enjoy the killing they had to do after the trenches were dug. It might as well have been Horus who kept this legion on this role, allowing him to more easily sway the mind of Perturabo towards chaos. Perturabo established himself as efficient and highly capable, but also brutal, bitter, and envious. It is widely acclaimed that Perturabo was envious of Rogodorn. He was annoyed by his constant reminders of the perfection and the defenses of Terra. The other primarchs also kept Perturabo at a distance. This might have been because of his supreme command of technology, far in advance of anything the other primarchs could do. He is referred to as the comrade who devised the best plan to avoid the defenses of Overdog Mashog, an orc war boss under attack by Leman Russ, leader of the Space Wolves, and Jagtai Khan, Khan of the White Scars. Perturabo was leading his Iron Warriors on a campaign to cleanse the Hrud Warrens on Gugen when he received news that his homeworld Olympia was in rebellion. Demekos was long dead, but demagogues had brought the people together and risen in arms. The thought of being the only Primarch who could not control his own homeworld appalled him. Horus made the most of the opportunity by presenting Perturabo with a hammer named Forgebreaker. This gift was symbolic of us signing a pact between the two. Perturabo purged Olympia city by city, overrunning the fortresses he had built by sparing no one. By the time the massacre was over, 5 million Olympians had been killed, and the rest put into slavery. Perturabo looked on in cold silence. After the pyres were burning, the Iron Warriors realized what they had done. There were no more saviors of the Imperium. Destroying the Hrud one moment, and the next they were committing genocide. Perturabo realized that the Emperor could never forgive him for what he had done. Horus, on the other hand, commended Perturabo for his decisive action, and the Lord of Iron swore an oath of loyalty to the War Master. He done fucked up. During this time, new orders came from Terra. Leman Russ and the Space Wolves had attacked Magnus and his 1,000 sons on Prospero. Horus had turned renegade with his legion, the Sons of Horus, besides some other legions. The whole of the Imperium was on the brink of a civil war. The new orders were to join with 6 other legions and then head to face Horus and his forces on Isstvan V. The result of the following battle was that the Iron Warriors, Night Lords, Word-Bearers, and Alpha Legion all joined Horus and almost completely destroyed the 3 remaining loyal legions on the Drop Site Massacre. After that, the Iron Warriors were let loose, and Perturabo relished the opportunity to fight in a way that he did not need to rely on massive sieges and trench warfare. Because of their massive deployment throughout the galaxy, dozens of warsmiths took over planets and demanded tithes to support the heresy. After the first siege of Hydra Cordatus, Perturabo was approached by Fulgrim, Primarch of the Emperor's Children, who promised the Lord of Iron near unlimited power. The two embarked on a quest to tip the balance of the rebellion in Horus's favor by journeying into the Eye of Terror and retrieving a weapon known as the Angel Exterminatus. After a breach-boarding action with the Cephesium, which Perturabo allowed to escape due to his disgust of Fulgrim's legion, the duo arrived in the Eye and quickly landed on the prone world of Idris. Entering an ancient Eldar citadel known as Ammon Neshith Kalis, the Emperor's Children and Iron Warriors had to contend with an army of Wraithguard and Wraithlords that had awoken from their slumber. At the height of the vicious battle, Fulgrim attempted to betray his brother and slip away, but was pursued by Perturabo. Both soon arrived in a massive spherical chamber, and Fulgrim revealed to his brother that there was no Angel Exterminatus, but he rather was destined to become such a weapon on this world. Furious, Perturabo attacked Fulgrim, but was drained of his power when Fulgrim activated Malgeter Stone that Perturabo had previously received under the guise of a gift. Now, with the Iron Warrior's Primarch power in hand, Fulgrim revealed the purpose of his plan, to achieve apotheosis, better known as demonhood. Unfortunately for Fulgrim, Perturabo gathered enough strength to charge at his brother, but they were interrupted by an ambush of Salamanders, Ironhand, and Ravenguard, who had been stalking the traitor fleet in search of vengeance since the Drop Site Massacre. One of the Loyalist Astartes during the battle shattered the Malgeter Stone, freeing some of Perturabo's energy and giving him the ability to strike down Fulgrim with his Thunderhammer. However, Perturabo only managed to destroy the Primarch's mortal skin and was reborn as a demon prince. Now a massive but elegant serpentine creature, Fulgrim told his brother that they would meet again, and then he vanished in a burst of warp energy. along with the rest of his emperor's children. Exhausted and betrayed by his brother, he knew he had now lost any trace of honor. Perturabo allowed the loyalist Astartes to withdraw, and he led his own forces off the Crone world, looking to settle the score with Fulgrim and better understand the cosmic power he had witnessed. Perturabo ordered his fleet to sail deep into the Eye of Terror. Perturabo and the Iron Warriors next found themselves trapped by the Singularity in the heart of the Eye of Terror. Perturabo gambles in his attempt to escape, diving straight into the black hole at its heart. Perhaps by sheer blind luck, they were transported far across the warp to the Talern system. Once arriving at Talern, Perturabo was made aware of the black oculus hidden beneath the planet, and he immediately drew up plans to invade. Eventually, the Iron Warriors' search for the black oculus was exposed, and they were forced to withdraw from the planet. Later, a large contingent of Iron Warriors accompanied Perturabo to the siege of Terra, where he supervised the bombardment and siege of the Emperor's palace. Perturabo took a perverse pleasure in tearing down the defenses set up by his once rival, Rogel Dorn. After Horus's death on Terra, Perturabo took the opportunity to take vengeance on the Imperial Fists with a trap on Sebastus IV. This trap was known as the Eternal Fortress, a keep centered within 20 square miles of bunkers, towers, minefield, trenches, tank traps, and redoubts. Upon hearing of this, Rogel Dorn publicly declared that he would dig Perturabo out of his hole and bring him back to Terra in an iron cage. Dorn expected an honorable battle, but this was not to be. Beginning by isolating the 4 companies of the Imperial Fists from their orbital support, Perturabo began to carefully divide his enemy and destroy them piece by piece. Some Imperial Fists managed to penetrate the defenses and reach the center of the Eternal Fortress, only to find that there was no central keep, simply an open space watched by yet more defenses. The fortress was a decoy of no real value, surrounded by 20 miles of killing ground. By the 6th day of the siege, Imperial Fist Space Marines were fighting individually, without support, using the bodies of their own battle brothers for cover. The siege for Eternal Fortress, later referred to as the Iron Cage Incident, lasted for a further 3 weeks. Relief finally came in the form of Robut Guilliman and the Ultramarines, who drove off the Iron Warriors. But this siege left Rogel Dorn a broken man, and rendered the Imperial Fist chapter unable to fight for 19 years. The gene seed of over 400 Imperial Fists was sacrificed to the Dark Gods, and Perturabo was elevated to the rank of Demon Prince of Chaos Undivided. Following this victory, the Iron Warriors fled to the Eye of Terror once again, with a secured new demon world named Medrengard, crafting a terrible fortress world where his soldiers ruled in vast towers. Perturabo's stronghold, the Fortress of Hate, is said to be the most redoubtable of fortress worlds. Today, the Iron Warriors give their greatest loyalty to Perturabo for saving them from sacrifice in the name of the Emperor. Later on, Perturabo emerged once more to wreak havoc. Invoking Nurgle, Perturabo imbued a curse with extreme contagiousness and released it into the mechanical systems on the forged world of Toil. The Chaos Plague spread through the machines and factory complexes, changed over the course of 8 days. On the 8th day, giant cables burst from the ground, spewing forth hungry demon engines, while the factories themselves grew legs and prowled the planet's surface. All life on Toil was eventually annihilated, but Perturabo aided Abaddon the Despoiler in the Black Crusade, and he opened a warp portal for the Black Legion, and he had no choice but to leave the Forge World behind. And now it has come to the Wargear of Perturabo, beginning with his Artificer Terminator armor, the Logos. Perturabo's Panoply of War was a unique and highly customized suit of Artificer-crafted, cataphracti pattern Terminator armor, the heavy-layered ceramite looking more at home on a tank than on a primarch. This armor was of his own design, and was known as the Logos. As well as providing a phenomenal level of defense against outside attack, this armor contains sophisticated command and control systems, which linked Perturabo cybernetically to every facet of the forces under his disposal, and also included a shifting array of weapons and secondary systems created by his vast intellect. The Logos incorporated the finest technology of its age, including a teleport homer, a Cortex controller, a Nuncio Vox, and a Cognis Signum. He also wielded many frag grenades and a wrist-mounted combi bolter. This combi bolter was a variation on the ubiquitous Space Marine weapon. Its magazines were loaded with heavy, custom-fabricated bolter rounds, able to punch through Space Marine battleplate with plasmic, armor-piercing warheads, which used the victim's body mass as biothermic fuel. These unfortunate victims would ignite like a human fire with every detonation. His trusty weapon of choice was Forgebreaker. Forgebreaker was an exquisite warhammer crafted by Fulgrim for his brother Ferrus Manus, beneath Mount Narodina, the greatest of forge of the Ural Mountains of Terra. Forgebreaker was the length of a mortal man, and half fashioned from an alloy that was as unbreakable as it was unknown. It was patterned like marble, veined with lightning, and caped by an amber pommel stone, set with a slitted eye of jet. The head of the hammer was steel and gold, its rear razor spike, the killing face flat and murderous. Following the death of Ferrus at the hands of Fulgrim during the Dropsite Massacre, the War Master Horus presented this formidable weapon to Perturabo as a symbolic gesture of the Iron Warrior's newfound allegiance to the War Master, rather than the Emperor. Next up is his own personal vehicle, the Tormentor. Tormentor was a converted Shadow Sword super heavy tank, with additional armor plating on all sides and an extended command and control functions. To accommodate the Lord of Iron's scale and his automatron bodyguards, the vehicle's superstructure and engine had been radically overhauled by the new Mechanica. And once again, we are at the end of yet another 40 Facts video. Perturabo was never my favorite, and with this lore, I guess he did move up the ranking of all the primarchs, but he's alright. Let me know what you guys think about him. Do you guys play him in your 30k games? Do you wish to see him brought to the 40k timeline? If not, who do you want to see? Is it Vulcan, or perhaps Fulgrim? Let me know in the comments down below. And also, I will be getting into the lore of the Iron Cage a little bit more in depth, since you guys have been requesting it, so I will bring it. And don't worry guys who voted for the Fracture of Bealtan, we will get to this lore eventually, just maybe next week or the week after that. And that's all I've got for you guys today. As always, keep on liking, subscribing, and sharing. I am the Sound Alchemist, part of OneMindSyndicate, and I am signing out.